So, Connor, have you finished playing this game, The Last of Us Part 5 or Part 2?
Yeah, I have. I finally made it across the finish line. Finally made it.
Thank God, because I thought we're not gonna talk about anything else, just you playing that game. I was seriously worried that our next episode is gonna be you keep on playing, I'm watching films, and you just tell me about the how many people I have to kill and how many people killed me, how many times. I'm like,
Mm,
not interested.
mm.
So tell me, did you cry?
I came pretty close. I'm not gonna lie. Um, the game is definitely really really long. Like it keeps going and going and going. I don't want to spoil anything of it. I'm gonna keep this like as brief as possible. But like I feel like the decisions in the game to for things like to make it very long are deliberate decisions. Like the game is designed almost to make you as a player feel physically and mentally exhausted by the time that you get to the end of it, because the character in the game is also physically just pretty much destroyed and mentally very much destroyed at this point as well. So I feel like the game is designed in a way that, like, you know, you kind of are ready for it to end, and it just keeps just, you know, drawing it on out of you, you know, and just throwing you back into these situations that you don't really want to be part of anymore, because at the end of the day neither do the characters. And that's kind of what I feel like. It's very very well put together. And I don't want to say too much on it, but I would advise you to go and have a look up at the reaction to this game online. Have you seen any of it?
I mean, I read some reviews. I just saw some tweets about, like, I mean, mainly controversy. Some people love it, some people don't like it, and it's because of I think it's mainly because there are some characters that are not straightforward, like transgender. Am I right saying that? Oh,
There are, yes, you are, and there are a multitude of reasons why people have not liked this game. But rather bizarrely, it's one of those films that's kind of critically acclaimed, or you know, one of those games, sorry, that's like critically acclaimed, and the review started to come out the week prior to the game being released, and the game had very very strict non-disclosure agreements, so the people talking about it could only say a very limited amount of stuff. There are entire sections of the game that they weren't allowed to talk about at all. So by the time it released to players the following week, and they began to experience some of these sections in the game that had kind of been kept a secret, to the point where the trailers that the game had released, and Naughty Dog had put out over the past, I think the first trailer was probably back in 2017 or 2018 is when we first seen a trailer for this, for The Last of Us. And many of the trailers were full of misdirection. So when you actually get to play those sequences, they are different than the ones that you would have initially seen. So it kind of was, you know, subverting expectations an awful lot. Players had this idea in their mind of what was about to happen, and in the game, in some cases, very quickly throws that out the window, and then in other ways, it like waits until the right point, and then it just, you know, pulls a quick one on you, and it's it's really really interesting. But there has been many reasons why people have not liked it. Some of them that you kind of alluded to, and some of them have been to do with writing decisions, and it's kind of depressing, because it reminds me a lot of The Last Jedi. One of the actors in The Last of Us, Laura Bailey, she's a voice actor and has done a whole bunch of stuff. she voices a character in The Last of Us, and her character's amazing. I'm not going to say who it is. She's amazing, and she's really, really well written. And she posted the other day some of the messages that she's been getting on social media. And as you can imagine, it's just like the worst stuff possibly imagine. It's just full of death threats, full of hatred, full of just derogatory comments, rape threats, like you name it. It's pretty much all
Wow.
listed there. Yeah, she just posted up like screenshots of the messages that she received. Neil Druckmann, who writes the game. And he wrote the game, sorry, and is also the creative director and the vice president of Naughty Dog. So The Last of Us has been his sort of baby and passion project. He's originally from Israel, and he also posted up a number of death threats that he had gotten, anti-Semitic comments, and everything else in between. Um,
It's incredible how horrible people can be to
yeah.
one another just because they play like they use the voice or they design as like a cultural phenomenon. I don't know, like a game or a
Mm-hmm.
book or film. It's
Mm-hmm.
just
Mm-hmm.
I don't
It,
I don't know.
it's
Wow.
it's very bizarre because we've talked on here a little bit about sort of like the like art movies or independent cinema in relation then to huge blockbuster shows, like the MCU and stuff like that, and how it seems to be that sometimes the bigger something gets, the less, especially nowadays, the less freedom it has to actually make creative decisions. Like it seems like it used to be considered, oh, that might be a pretty daring decision to make because people might not go see your movie, or they might not buy your game or listen to your album. If you were very creative and wanted to take it a different direction than maybe something that you had done before. But that seems to have evolved now beyond just we might not make money to if you do this, you might get legitimate death threats made against you and be forced to close down your social media. So that's a very disappointing side to the launch of The Last of Us Part 2. But that being said, there's not a single person that I have spoke to in person who has not just heaped praise on this game. There is no real. There are critics, I think, that I've seen some of the reviews that have fair complaints about some of the things in it, and that's absolutely fine. But overall, I would say like the Metacritic score for this is still somewhere around like 95, 96. And that is absolutely representative of this game. It's like I said before, it's way better than most other games.
Connor, is it difficult game?
No, it's like all games. It has the different difficulty options that you can go through. The artificial intelligence in the game and how the enemies react is much smarter than most games that I've ever played. But what I will say is incredibly difficult. And again, no spoilers here. Some of the decisions that the characters make in the game that you have to play out are incredibly difficult to sit through. Like sometimes you disagree with them as the person holding the controller. You say, I don't want to do what I'm about to do. And I wish that there was an alternative. I wish this was a game that would give me options. Press X to do this and press square to do this. But it's not. This game is a game that says, we have made these decisions. We are telling you a story and you are going to be part of that story. So it is a bit of a journey to have to do some of the stuff that it wants you to do throughout it. But I couldn't recommend this for anyone who does play games at all. I recommend 100% giving this a go, particularly if you've played the first one. I think most people who've played the first one will immediately have played this anyway. And if you haven't, I still think that there's space for you to pick this up and just play it anyway, if you're interested in it. And to some extent, I would even recommend that people watch all of the cutscenes from the game as well, just to even see the technical side of things. There's a video that we could put in the show notes. They do like a technical review on the game, so it's nothing really to do with spoilers or anything like that. Their YouTube channel is almost entirely like breaking down technicalities of how games are made and stuff like that. Digital Foundry, that's who they're called, Digital Foundry. They do a technical breakdown of The Last of Us, and it's an amazing video. It's about 20 minutes to just watch like the level of detail that this game goes to create a realistic environment with realistic characters performed and captured through motion capture, so that you're getting all of the tiny details in the acting, as well as the movements and the body language. It's just far and above pretty much most other games, I think. So yeah, go play it if you can. Go watch that video if you're remotely interested in it, which I hope you are, because I've just spent 12 minutes talking about it. So
yeah, you definitely made it interesting, to be honest. I will check the video. I kind of like the behind the scenes and everything else. Do you remember a movie you maybe watched that would make you feel that uncomfortable with watching it, when you were like, oh, don't do it, just stay away, don't do it, and you'd be like sweating while watching it? Is there something like that comes into your mind?
Not from that point of view, but I do remember watching like one that kind of pops to mind from the sort of like it designed and filmed in a way that makes you almost feel like you can experience it, was The Revenant.
Oh, I agree completely.
Like
the same thought.
The Revenant made me feel cold watching that movie, and I didn't help that the cinema that I went into, the heating was broken, so it actually was freezing cold. But I went to
4D.
But it was one of those films that I remember constantly, the way that they shot it, feeling uncomfortable with every single element of it. Like I could feel DiCaprio almost freezing to death.
Yeah, that's a great show. I was thinking about the same thing, but in terms of what people do in the movie, one of the other things is Hereditary. That was very uncomfortable watch. When I watch a lot of uncomfortable movies in general, but this one just left me shaken a little bit. So this is The Last of Us Part 2. I hope this is the last time we heard about it on this show.
I can't remember if we covered it back in March time or not, but Neil Druckmann is partnering with Craig Mazin, who did Chernobyl for HBO. So that is very, very exciting news, given how this game turned out. I don't think it's going to follow necessarily the same characters or anything, but I am very, very excited to see where they take that.
Okay, Conor, thank you for this extensive review of The Last of Us. Let's move on with the show.
You ready?
I was born ready.
Hello and welcome to the Blockbusters. This is a podcast about the wonderful world of cinema, TV, movies and shows we love, no matter how big, no matter how small. You already heard Conor Boyle talking about The Last of Us Part 2, and my name is Rado. I promise I won't be talking about any games whatsoever, because I haven't played any. Let's start with some news. Actually, I've got very sad news that's just broke. This is about the famous composer Ennio Morricone, who was 91. He died actually this morning in Rome. So you might remember his music from films like The Good, The Bad, The Ugly, from The Mission, from The Hateful Eight. He got an Oscar for that one. He also composed music for Days of Heaven, The Untouchables, Bugsy, Malena, Cinema Paradiso. He was an iconic composer. It's a big loss to the world of cinema. But yeah, his music will stay with us for a long time. Yeah, so that's the sad news. We got some information about what's going on in actually the world of real cinemas. So we had some cinemas actually reopening last week. I know that Cineworld has postponed the opening till the end of July, when there will be films like Tenet or other big titles available. But I know that some of the Odeon cinemas have reopened, and they just been playing the films from March and from February, and some of the other films. But we were meant to see actually Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back in 4K in the cinemas. But apparently, I'm not sure if you knew about it, but that Disney decided to pull out the 4K version. So the Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back will be still screened in the UK cinemas, but it will be the 2K version of that film. So we're not getting the upgrade. I think Disney decided not to show it because of the not many people going to the cinemas potentially.
Yeah.
I know you're a big fan of Star Wars and the whole old Disney merchandise. Would you be interested in going? I know you love all 4K or 4K things. Would you be going to watch the 4K version if it was available in the theater?
If they did the original theatrical ones, which I have to imagine, I know we spoke about it here before, but I have to imagine that it's something that they are sitting on, and they are waiting and waiting and waiting for the right moment to release them again. That original cut, they have to be sitting on it. I can't believe that they're not
100%.
You know, so yeah. I feel like for something, I don't know whether it will be a 50th anniversary or that's probably past actually. You know, whether it be a 75th or something like that. Whether or not they are thinking of putting that back out into the cinema remastered in 4K or something like that, without any of like the crazy special effects or anything that were added in with the digital remasters. So I don't think right now I would go see a Star Wars film unless it was something brand new in the cinema. I don't think showing something like this is enough to entice me back just yet.
I would surprise you. I would definitely want to check out the 4K edition of the Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back. I've not seen this film for a while, and this is the best one. Like we discussed that a while ago. If we are with Disney, talking about Disney, I think after we finished recording our previous episode, there was a news breaking that Mulan was actually pushed back from July 24th to August 21st. And this is because Warner Bros. Has pushed Tenet back to August 12th. So for now, I think all the big companies are awaiting the California and New York to open, so they can kind of get the full, impact of people going to the theaters.
Yeah.
Rather than just have a few places here and there open. We'll see how this looks like. UK has opened its pubs and cinemas like just this past weekend, and we will see how this develops over time. I'm definitely keen to watch a movie in the theater. None of my local cinemas are open, but yeah, we'll see what will happen.
Yeah. Me either. None of my local ones have reopened yet at all. We have also done bars and restaurants. Although primarily they are trying to keep things as outdoor as possible. So anywhere that has the availability to put people outdoors, they're doing that, because I still think that indoor seems to be substantially more dangerous still and at high risk than anything outdoors. So I just, again, I feel like we've been talking about this forever now, whether or not these films are actually going to release, and whether or not people feel comfortable going back and watching something at this point in time. I feel like I do see Tenet obviously as the big one, and I do see people mentioning it, and you could see how it changes, particularly in the US, where it was, I'd still go watch it back in May time. So like, yeah, if they do June, I think I'll do it. And then they got to June, they were like, I'm not so sure. And now it's like, they're saying August, and people are like, no way, I wouldn't go in August. And you're like, that's weird. You seemed ready to go like last month, but maybe only now are you realizing how bad the situation is, particularly in the US. There's a good Wired article, I'll link you to it to pop in the show notes as well, today, about the fact that Tenet is the reason why cinemas are not reopening, because they want to reopen with Tenet being a big sort of explosive film to draw lots of people in. But
yeah, what's gonna explode?
yeah,
That's the question.
Yeah,
What's
exactly.
gonna explode? Is it gonna be the people who coming in, or the COVID? I hope our people are reasonable. I read many articles about, like, oh, shall we wear masks? Like, we don't have to. Some of the world leaders don't really kind of encourage it at all, which is weird, because it is understandable that masks in places when you have to deal with other people in the closed spaces should be mandatory, and that's a no-brainer. One news very quickly. So we know Jason Momoa from being an Aquaman from the first series of Game of Thrones as Khal Drogo. But soon we will know his voice as Frosty the Snowman. I'm not sure if this is a hoax. I checked it on multiple sites and it doesn't seem to be. But yeah, Jason Momoa seems to be kind of moving in a direction maybe of like I don't know, Arnold Schwarzenegger or Sylvester Stallone, when he's gonna be voicing completely different characters he's never been associated with. So imagine Frosty the Snowman with the voice of Khal Drogo. Just makes me laugh.
Yeah, that's a bizarre story.
For now, let's just close the news segment unless you have something pressing.
Pirates of the Caribbean reboot.
Oh yeah, true.
With Margot Robbie. I thought that was quite interesting news, because it's Margot Robbie and Christina Hodson, who did the Harley Quinn standalone film, which I liked, but I didn't love. I can't remember if we reviewed it on here or not, but I thought it was good fun, but tied to that kind of shitty DCEU universe in some way, and I felt like maybe it could have broken off and been a bit more independent in ways that would have made it better. But all in all, I think they did a pretty good job with it, and I think that the pair of them would do a good job rebooting the now. I can't even tell you what Pirates of the Caribbean film is what anymore. I don't even think I've seen them all, because
no one knows what happened
just
to it.
So it became a total mess by like the fourth or fifth film. But to reboot it with Margot Robbie as a lead would be pretty awesome, I think, and I would go and watch it. So
yeah, I agree. Yeah, she's got that sort of spark and a bit of craziness about her, and she's obviously very good looking. And I mean, I should say first, she's extremely talented. So yeah, I'm up for that. Margot Robbie as a kind of reboot of Pirate Caribbean. She could replace, the kind of character that Johnny Depp created, or just create like a completely new version of that kind of wacko. Yeah, I'm up for that. Absolutely. this is all in news. We've been watching some stuff, so you managed to actually watch some other things except for playing your game.
Yeah.
So what did you watch recently? You wanted to maybe recommend?
Well, I did. I did buy, for some unbeknown reason to me, the Mission Impossible 6 movie collection to watch. They've all been remastered into 4K with Dolby Vision and Dolby Atmos. So I was kind of interested to see what they look like remastered. And I know some of the newer films, which I haven't got round to just yet. I will keep you updated every week as I go through them, but those films were filmed in like native Dolby Vision and 4K and everything as well. So it should be quite exciting to see how good they look. But I did watch the original movie, and I just thought it was first of all, they did a great job with the 4K restoration. This film looks incredible for the most part. It has aged in some ways, mostly down to like some of the clothes and stuff that they wear in it are a little odd, and some of the CGI in on the final. Do you remember the final scene with the train and the helicopter? It was like the
Not at all, actually, Conor. I was very young when I watched it for the first time.
Yeah, I didn't really remember it either, but the final scene is Jean Reno chasing John Voight and Tom Cruise, who are on a train. Oh, I think it's the Eurostar. They are on the Eurostar, and he is following them on in the tunnel on a helicopter. And it does not look too good. It did not hold up very well at all. But I do think, like, I enjoy the Mission Impossible movies. These are they're another franchise of films that I feel like when you watch this one, it definitely takes itself way more seriously than the later films do. You know, it definitely feels like they thought they were making a proper spy espionage movie, and for the most part, it does, and it takes itself very seriously. But I always find it very hard to take Tom Cruise super seriously, just by nature. So the later films seem to have kind of come into their own and realized that these are just sort of like high energy action films with lots of cool set pieces, and Tom Cruise being absolutely ridiculous, doing Tom Cruise things with a cool team of people along with him. And it's just interesting how to go back and watch this first one and realize how much they have evolved over time. So I watched that, and I also watched the first episode of Unsolved Mysteries on Netflix, which Unsolved Mysteries is actually a reboot of an older show that I'd never watched, but we sat down last night and actually just happened to throw on the first episode. I think you watched it as well.
Yeah, I watched 2 episodes of that. I didn't actually know until I found some information about it that it used to be a show back in the days, and just Netflix kind of took over it. So it did not mean anything for me, but I love the kind of mystery about it and the unsolved cases, a little bit like X-Files, but in the real world, right?
Yeah, it definitely still has that kind of, I guess, maybe 90s feeling about it. Like, you know, the sort of opening titles and stuff still feel kind of like they are paying homage to a 90s show. But it's most of it is much more modern and up to date after that. But yeah, I enjoyed it. Netflix love this genre of stuff, don't they? They just love that, you know, like the true crime documentaries, and I feel like this maybe isn't as impactful as it was back then for people who would have watched it then, because Netflix have kind of diluted the market of shows like this now, you know, because like they do have, like, you know, Making a Murderer and even Tiger King and stuff like that. It's all kind of,
but they are very good at it, actually. They do quite a good job on actually the true crime dramas and TV documentaries. Yeah.
They are strangely easy watching, despite the fact that they are usually dealing with very horrible situations. There's something that is easy to sit down and follow along as it kind of gets revealed to you as a viewer, like episode by episode or moment by moment, which is, I think, makes it kind of fun to go along with the ride. But this one I definitely think was a lot sadder than some of the other ones felt in some ways. Like this one, particularly that first episode, there was a lot of pain from his wife in it. Like she was clearly still incredibly devastated by the events that she was kind of having to retell at this point, and as the story goes through, and we kind of follow along with it. At each point you're like, okay, open and close case, and she never quite believes that, obviously, and there are other people along with her that never quite believe that either. And then to find that, as the show title suggests, by the time you get to the end of the episode, well, she has never really got any answers or any resolution to it. It's just still that, kind of very much an open wound, which is sad.
Yeah, this is one of the things with this show. You kind of expect the closure towards the end. Or maybe they found out something. Nope. It is still unsolved.
Yep.
As the title said, this is unsolved mystery. So if you have any news about this person, or if you know something, go to this website and tell us what's happened, and we're gonna make another episode about that.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting. Like to finish it with a PSA that if you do know anything, that there is, you can go to whatever, it's like unsolved.com or something, because of how big Netflix's reach is now. Like to reopen a case from 10 years ago or something like that and put it in front of an international audience, where someone somewhere may have some information. It will be really interesting to see if anything comes of any of these episodes from this Netflix show.
Yeah, that's true. I would want to see like a follow-up episode of that.
My hope is that there is somebody that's out there that knows the truth.
Give us a little help. That's what we're asking for.
I kept saying there is something bigger. I'm gonna find out.
We may have something more sinister going on.
All these years, we never spoke of it.
It just doesn't make sense.
Ça a été un choc. Ce que je ressens, c'est qu'il y a quelque chose de grave qui s'est passé.
I just can't forget about it. I won't forget about it.
I would have never let her go.
I think they were probably taken by people who were desperate.
I have no memory of the lost time.
I saw a lot of lights.
All of a sudden, everything erupted loudly.
I get goosebumps thinking about it.
I've been doing some rewatching of like classic stuff and actually watching something for the very first time. So within last few days, I watched both Legally Blonde with Reese Witherspoon and Clueless with Alicia Silverstone. I've never seen those movies before, actually.
Me either.
And they're quite good, actually. They are really, really fun, and I understand why they are. They have like a cult status right now. There's even like a day of Clueless, when the Clueless is celebrated. And I'm not sure if you knew, have you ever seen, but in Clueless, our favorite Avenger, so Paul Rudd, Ant-Man, is actually playing one of the roles. So that was cool to see. But apart from that, I had a real kind of a need for something I really like and something I watched ages ago. So a few days ago, I watched Demolition Man with Sylvester Stallone and Wesley Snipes, which is such a ridiculous movie, but also has so many things that we see right now. So there is a scene when Stallone and Sandra Bullock, she's fantastic in that film, by the way, with all the stupid lines she has to say. She just makes like complete use of it, and she's making really nice character when she actually asks him to make love to him.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, sure. So they start making love, but virtually, like in
Yeah.
like those virtual helmets.
Yeah.
And he's like, what about boning and this? And she's like, exchange fluids? Yuck.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, oh yeah, welcome to coronavirus times. It's essentially exchange fluids. No way.
No, thank you.
But yeah, that is it's a super fun film. To be honest, it's available right now on Amazon Prime. And yesterday I reached out to my DVD shelf, which isn't that big actually, because I got rid of a lot of stuff. But I have a couple of box sets, and one of my box sets is Alien Quadrilogy. So all the films from the Alien series, actually on DVD, Conor, so not on 4K Blu-ray, and you watch it on DVD is painful. So yeah, I had to go through that. But I watched Aliens, so the second film directed by James Cameron, and I was always kind of like, I don't like that film because it's, it's not the first one, which was like a proper horror, and this is like an action film, like a proper action film. And some of the effects you see, from 1986, that they were fantastic, they are not anymore there. But I still think all the aliens, the costumes, the masks, it's just perfectly done. And it's such an entertaining film. And I was, sitting on the edge of my couch and kind of watching it. So
Yeah,
if you
it's a good
have
film.
if you have it in your collection, or if you just want to rent it or buy it, I would recommend to watch. I love all of them actually, maybe except for the fourth one, from the classic quadrilogy. The first one is obviously fantastic. This is Ridley Scott movie. Second one, like I said, I probably just got convinced it's as good as the first one. And I also really like the third one, which people actually shit on quite a lot. This is David Fincher's first film, and there was a first version that was released, and then the second version that is available on that quadrilogy DVD or Blu-ray set has actually like the very first cut of the film, and it makes much more sense when you compare it to like the version. I might find time to watch the fourth one, but I'm not really keen on actually watching that. So yeah, this is what I've been watching. But apart from that, before we move on to reviews, I wanted to quickly recommend 3 films, Conor.
Go for
and
it.
I know you'll be keen to watch them. So starting from Netflix. On Netflix, you can actually find right now the movie by Gaspar Noé. He's an Argentinian director. His movie Love, which is almost explicitly like porn movie, was available on UK Netflix for a while. Now it's gone, and now you can watch Climax, his recent full-length movie, and it's a wild trip, like wild acid trip. Generally it is that, because it's about a group of people in the 90s set in like a closed location, and they all drink sangria spiced up with LSD, and they start tripping. And it's such a incredible film. I enjoy, I would recommend anyone to watch it if you like crazy trippy films, and this is for you. The second recommendation I've got is a movie called Dating Amber, and this is on Amazon Prime. It's an Irish movie about set in the 90s, about 2 gay people, so a girl and a guy, who kind of figure out that to survive in high school, they just gonna pretend they date each other. So people start calling them, dykes and faggots and whatever. So it's really, really warm, really funny, and generally moving as well. So that's Dating Amber, available on Amazon Prime. And 2 movies on Mubi. If you love Pedro Almodovar, Pain and Glory, exclusively available over there. And a new movie by Werner Herzog is gonna be dropping in Mubi soon. It's Family Romance LLC. And I hope I'm gonna talk about it when it drops a little bit more. But for now, I just want to say Werner Herzog, Pedro Almodovar, 2 big names in like European cinema in general. Something for you, Conor. I know you love European films with subtitles.
Them. I did actually read I read a little bit about Family Romance LLC. It sounds interesting to say the least.
It's a super interesting concept, but let's
Yeah.
talk about it next time.
Yeah, let's do that.
So we have some reviews to talk about, and it's gonna be us singing and dancing about those films, because we have, as a first thing, is the Eurovision Song Contest, the Story of Fire Saga. So we have two aspiring musicians from Iceland, Lars and Sigrid, and they are given the opportunity to represent the country on the world's biggest song competition, and they finally can prove, especially Lars to his dad, that they have a dream that's worth chasing. So this movie is directed by David Dobkin, who also directed Wedding Crashers and The Change Up. It's got Will Ferrell as Lars and Rachel McAdams in playing Sigrid. We also have a couple of other people like Dan Stevens from Beauty and the Beast. We have Pierce Brosnan. We also have appearances from Demi Lovato, Graham Norton, and a bunch of Eurovision stars, which I probably recognize 2 or 3. This is a comedy with a lot of songs, a lot of entertainment. We didn't have Eurovision Contest this year, but I think this movie kind of fitted in perfectly. It was actually meant to be released at the time when Eurovision Contest was meant to be online, like in May, but it was postponed, just pushed back a little bit. And in the time approaching Eurovision, we had this fantastic song by the Icelandic band. I can't say the name because it's too complicated. It's called Think About Things. Have you seen the video of that?
No. No, I'm gonna say no. I think I have, but in passing. So
just
no.
Brilliant. It's a brilliant song. One of my friends, our friend actually, common friend, recommended that song to me, and he was playing it all over again. I think that song would have won the competition this year, the Eurovision, no doubt. We had this movie, which is available right now on Netflix. Conor, what did you think about Eurovision Song Contest?
I have a notes app that I write down things in as I watch films, just so that when we're going to talk about them. And for this movie, I wrote garbage.
And what else?
That was it, actually. It was as much as I limited it on. But I can't say more on it, but at the time, I was like, this movie is garbage.
I went to watch that movie with so that's your first impression. I went to watch that movie with one word in mind: garbage.
Yeah. Did you come away with that?
And I came away with, that was actually fun.
Yeah. I don't think I did. To preface it, I should say that I'm not the biggest supporter of Eurovision in and of itself. I understand the wackiness of it. I understand the theatrics of it. I understand that it's meant to be just sort of like fun and silly and a celebration of cultures and just kind of a big party, like a big European party that happens every single year. But I just, for some reason, find it just absolutely impossible for me to sit and watch it for any period of time without wanting to just throw myself out a window, and hopefully that it's just an endless void below and that I just fall into an endless void afterwards.
I mean, I don't get it. I don't get it.
It's just not for me at all. And like, I have no problem with people who there's some people who absolutely love it. Some of them may live in this house.
But without pointing fingers.
But I just cannot understand this show. It just does not compute with me whatsoever. And so going into the movie, I was not I went in kind of like mostly blind and quite hopeful because I quite like Will Ferrell. Like I really like some of Will Ferrell's stuff actually. So I was quite hopeful that Will Ferrell would be able to pull through on this one and just make it funny. But it's kind of that Will Ferrell that's trying too hard instead of just the Will Ferrell that is sort of like improvising a lot on set, which I find always turns out to be the funniest stuff that he does. If you see shows like Danny McBride's Eastbound and Down, he's amazing in that, and so much of it comes down to the fact that they just let him sort of ad-lib around a very loose script, and it comes off really well. The script in this felt particularly lazy. You know, that was that sort of like story you've seen 1,000 times, like someone is trying to get into something, or has a goal or a dream in mind, and they never actually accomplish it, because every step of the way they sort of fall through it, or something happens that they just get lucky. So, you know, they never actually accomplish it through, like, you know, talent or anything like that. And even with Rachel McAdams' character Sigrid, she's kind of just very, like, she's clearly the more talented of the two people in it, substantially better singer, but like her main aspirations are to, you know, have Will Ferrell love her back, and to just have like kids, you know, like that's kind of really all she's there for in the film, while Will Ferrell kind of aspires to be this amazing Eurovision star, if that's a thing. I did think the cast was kind of interesting. You know, that guy from The Guest. I remember that.
Yeah,
that
Dan
movie.
Stevens.
Yeah, he was pretty good in it. I thought like he
was fantastic.
Yeah, he was good. Like, he had that kind of intensity. That you know, that so sort of like a, you know, European intensity that you would get from like Swedish people, perhaps, or something like that. But I think most of all, that the show kind of pitched itself as a celebration of the Eurovision Song Contest, but I actually kind of came away with it feeling that it was making fun of it a lot more, which I should have been on board with, but it never really committed to doing that. It just sort of, you know, I felt like some of the things that they were doing were kind of, you know, like making fun of all of it, not really paying any sort of homage to it, other than some things like Graham Norton showing up, which I thought was a nice touch. You know, like if anyone who watches from here will know that, you know, like Graham Norton's commentary on the show is very sort of like sarcastic and slapstick, and he is one of the reasons why you would watch the actual, you know, live production, is to hear his commentary.
Yeah.
But I don't think it really kind of paid off in this movie for me.
Yeah, I understand. You know, like, I'm not the person who would watch Eurovision, and I don't follow it. I think people who watch it and love it might actually have much warmer feelings towards it. And I don't agree with you. I don't think it's actually even trying to be sarcastic, because you cannot make a sarcastic movie about something that is so that ridiculous as this competition and the type of characters. You know, it kind of attracts. You know, as Will Ferrell actually made this movie because his wife is Swedish, and he learned about it through her. She actually introduced him, and it was in the year when one of the Swedish musicians won Eurovision. That wasn't ABBA, that was a little bit later. But you can see kind of like a genuine warm feeling towards it. There is this amazing medley when they sing together, and all the real characters, the real musicians, they are there, and it just felt really heartwarming, you know. It didn't make me laugh as much as it should, like a comedy should. It's also quite lengthy, so that's definitely downsides. I agree with the kind of laziness of the screenplay, because there is literally nothing new. It even tries to be like a murder mystery for a while, but this plot is kind of is there and it's not there, and it suddenly reappears out of the blue. I would probably want this to concentrate on the couple only and make it a little bit shorter, so it's much more cohesive. But, you know, it made me smile a few times, and it has a nice vibe. The music in it, I was surprised that the music is actually quite good. You know, the songs are catchy. I kind of like watching the beginning of this when they kind of imagine they are in the competition already, and they played a song. That was pretty good, you know. And actually, Tiesto wrote this song. You know, you got this definite Euro trash feel about it, and you know, it brightened my day. It made me laugh, and it didn't make me laugh as many times as it should, but it still made me kind of, you know, it's a sweet message. I really love Rachel McAdams, so I enjoy Dan Stevens quite a lot in this film. Yeah, so for me, it's not a win-win, definitely not like the best movie, but it's also not garbage. I mean, I've seen worse films this year. So I would definitely recommend for someone, you know, this is like a weekend movie when you want to relax and maybe just, especially if you love Eurovision and you missed Eurovision, you should watch that movie.
I think I did enjoy the scenes in it where Will Ferrell was making fun of the Americans. Because you know, it's obviously quite on the nose, as Will Ferrell himself is obviously like a big loud American.
I like the running joke as well, Conor, when they could not decide, like they were not sure if they are brother and sister.
Ever since we were children, we've had one dream.
Winning the Eurovision Song Contest.
All right, everyone. I am Lars. This is Secret. We are Fire Saga.
Who wants to hear a Eurovision song?
All of Iceland think
We are a joke.
That's not true.
and my father is ashamed of me.
No, he's not.
He looked me into the eyes and said, I am ashamed of you.
Maybe he was drunk.
He said, and you might think that I'm drunk, but I am dead sober.
Idiot.
Officially, Fire Saga will be representing Iceland at Eurovision this year.
I hate them.
Absolutely terrible. They're old, disgusting people. But we have no choice.
So we're in. Yep.
But yeah, last thing I wanted to say, Conor, is a few jokes on it landed, few didn't, and yeah, it's a mixed bag. But what would you rate this movie?
Yes. All right. Exciting news then. So we have our own Letterboxed account for the blockbusters that we're going to officially launch right this very second. So every week on the show, essentially, when we do a review of a film that comes out, we are going to review it on our Letterboxd account. So we're going to have to agree on a score out of 5. So Letterboxd lets you do from 1 to 5 stars, but also half stars as well. So where would you place this movie, Rado?
So for me, it's a 3-star movie.
Okay.
I'm being generous, but I kind of say, like I said, I enjoyed some bits about it, and in general, I like films about music and comedies about music. What about you, Conor?
I'm gonna give it 2 stars, so I think then we have to put it in the middle at 2.5 stars.
Yeah, I'm quite happy with that. You know, I thought you were gonna go 1.
No, I'm gonna go 2 because I do understand what the film is trying to do. I do understand that they're trying to be charming, and you know that it's trying to pay some sort of homage to Eurovision, and I'm just not the target audience for something like that. I did hope that Will Ferrell would have pulled through for me, but it just didn't happen. So I'm gonna be fair, and I'm gonna give it 2 stars, and with your 3 stars, that's gonna make it 2.5 stars.
That's our first official rating.
Yeah, 2.5 out of 5. And then what we'll do in the future is we'll also have the ratings, but we also have the coveted heart, the like button, which should we say we can only use it like once each in an entire year?
Okay, that's gonna be tough.
Yeah, right. So like you have to think really, really carefully where you want, because basically it has to be your favorite film of the year that you're going to place the heart on. This year it will be Tenet because If it ever makes it out, it's going to be the only thing that actually makes it out. But anyway, I am.
If it makes it out.
If it makes it out, you know, it could end up being Black Widow later in the year potentially, or Bond actually. Could be Bond if Bond makes it out. Remember, Bond was going to release.
Dune.
Or Dune. Oh yeah. See, it's already hard. All right, I'm going to submit our first ever review then on our Letterboxed account. So if you'd like to follow us on it, it is Letterboxed. That's with no E in boxed. It's just letterboxd.com/The Blockbusters is our account. So you can follow us on there, kind of interact with any of our reviews, comment underneath them, etc., etc., etc. And I am going to submit it now, and it's done.
Yeah. Artificial clapping. This is mine. Okay, Conor, thank you for that. That was fantastic. But now we can move on to our final review of the day. And this is something I really wanted to talk about with you on that show. It's something I've been passionate about for a few years. I've been following it closely. Every weekend is so important to me. And this is also the weekend that it came back. So yes, we have Formula One coming back, and the six-time Formula One champion, Lewis Hamilton, is back. He didn't win the Grand Prix in Austria, but he was fourth. He was, I think, do you agree with me, actually, that he shouldn't be given the penalty?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Hamilton. You want us to talk about Hamilton?
Yes, we're going to talk about Hamilton. That's right. Lewis Hamilton himself. Oh God.
This may be a joke, but until probably early 2019, I did not have a clue what Hamilton is. And Hamilton, as a stage show, debuted in the US in 2015. That was completely different world. You know, that was the world when Obama was a president and everyone was kind of, looking forward to humanity. And this musical that depicts the birth of America is done in a hip hop style, R&B and pop music with cast of actors of different backgrounds, different colors, and it was a smashing hit. I probably did not hear about it much because I'm not a big musical guy, you know. I mean, films I would probably watch, but to go to West End musical, I would not make an effort to do that.
Sure.
Even a musical like Hamilton that turned out like in 2019 that like people are talking about it and the tickets are impossible to get and people would go and fly to US to actually watch the show. I had no clue about that. So, and obviously when I heard like Lin-Manuel Miranda, he was working on Mary Poppins Returns. And then I was like, who is this guy? Like, where is he from? But then it kind of fall into place for me. So as of the past weekend, the 3rd of July, finally, the stage recording of the 2016 show is available on Disney Plus. It was meant to be actually in the theaters in 2021, believe it or not. But Disney decided to actually, let's just put it in. We don't have any other content to put it on our platform and get people in. And it's a big deal, isn't it?
Yeah. They paid like $75 million or something for the rights to this. Like they paid a lot of cash.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure someone who like works in the finance in Disney, they're like, and we're releasing it to people who already paid. Okay, how are we gonna pay for that? But I'm pretty sure there will be some people who will sign up to Disney Plus to watch this.
Definitely.
So we both watched it, right?
Yeah.
Do you have any kind of thoughts about this? Or?
Yeah. For me, it was actually a little bit of a sore spot because I had tickets to go and see this in March in London. So we were supposed to go on, I think maybe St. Patrick's Day or something like that, like around March 17th. I think we were meant to go and actually see this in London live, and I was really excited to see it because As you said, like I had wanted to see it for a few years, but tickets were kind of hard to come by, and I don't live in London, so it wasn't really an option for me to go at just kind of the drop of a hat. When I did live in London last year, I applied for the raffle tickets almost every single day or 3 times a week or something like that there, and I never won it. But so it was a little bit like, okay, well, you know, if I'm not going to get to see it there, then sure, I'll watch it here. And it was cool, I guess, to see it with the original Broadway cast as well, which would have been, which is obviously an impossible thing to do now. You couldn't see it with this group of people again, so it's kind of cool to see that time capsule of what it would have been like. And I wonder, will more big production musical stage plays try and do this in the future, where they do a full recording of the original cast and then try and shop it out maybe to Netflix and stuff afterwards. If this is successful, I think that will be quite interesting to see, because I do think that overall this worked really well. Watching it, you know, live, like watching it not live, but watching it from home as a live production, I think it translated pretty well with the multiple cameras, and it was all in 4K and Dolby Vision and everything as well, Dolby Atmos. So
shut up with that Dolby Vision,
But it did. It looked great. Like the colors of the costumes and the stage and everything looked amazing, and the lighting looked amazing as well, because of that dynamic range in there. I think this translated really well. In terms of the actual show itself, I didn't know, obviously, it's kind of a theme of the show. Alexander Hamilton is somewhat left out of the sort of founding fathers of America, of the United States. You know, you certainly hear more about like Thomas Jefferson or George Washington than you do of Alexander Hamilton. So I thought that this, to me, like one of my favorite things about this is that teaching people something, like teaching people historical events through entertainment like this is such a powerful way to both teach you about it at a sort of base level, but also get you interested in it to maybe go and spend some time watching videos on YouTube or reading Wikipedia, or even going as far as watching full documentaries or books, reading books on a certain topic. Movies have always done this for me, so it was kind of cool to see it getting done in a really fun way with a full stage production as well. I did think that it was too long. There is an intermission in the middle of it, and watching it from home from me felt like it was too long. Certainly the last third of the show, I felt myself becoming slightly disinterested, whereas I feel, had I have watched it on stage, where you don't have any distractions, like the lights are down, you can't take your phone out, it's just you and the actors on stage. You know, it's probably paced better to keep your attention that way, whereas watching it at home, where maybe your phone is buzzing or someone is talking to you, or you know, something else is there to distract you. I did feel like the last third kind of dragged a little bit for me, but I still would very much recommend that people check this out. What did you think?
I did not know a single song before I watched it. I probably heard bits of it, like bit of a song, but it never kind of stayed in my mind. So I was not I know that people who were like watching it, they were in a very same situation as you. They were probably looking forward to seeing it. They maybe heard the soundtrack already. They know the songs word by word, and I was not that. And it was kind of difficult for me to get in with seeing what was happening on the stage, and like, okay, this is like 1700s, but there's hip hop and there's like rap and this, and I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. 20 minutes in, I had to do pause, because I could not get into it. Like, my girlfriend said she's not interested in watching it.
Okay.
And I had to do a pause, and I came back to it like the following day, and I finished watching it. But so I've got a couple of thoughts. I don't want to sound like I don't know anything about musicals, because I don't know much about musicals. I don't go, like I said, to watch a Western show. I'm not like one of the fans. I would sing songs or whatever. I love movie experiences, and this is not a movie. This is a recording of a show. So there is few cameras here and there. Some of the shots are good. Some of the shots are like lazy, and I don't think it's anything special. I think when they recorded that, they never thought this is going to be such a big deal, and they get so much money for a product that, you don't put too much effort in recording that. You just put few cameras here and there and kind of move them up and down, and that's it. So, and I think watching it at home, like, I agree with you, it's not the same experience as, like watching something in the theater. Because when I finally went to watch a Western show in London, I enjoyed it more than I did not enjoy it. So I watched few, and every time it was a good experience. I think, except for maybe one show that was overrated for me, I kind of enjoyed the buzz of sitting with the audience and people reacting and that. But watching it on the screen does not work for me. I did not rate that. So on Letterboxd, I did not actually rate that, because I don't think it deserves rating as a movie, and it's not fair for me to rate it, because I would probably be like, maybe don't know much about it. I do see why this is going for the whole the construction of it, the lyrics. They are so dense. There is so much stuff going on, and it's kind of moving forward, and it's got the rhythm. And you just kind of expect maybe like a pause or something. Nope, there's a next song coming, and there's a next song coming, and it's, like you said, it's a great educational piece, because I love history. So I started going to Wikipedia and kind of checking, okay, who was actually Alexander Hamilton, and who was he working with? Okay, with this guy, and there was this big, and there was a big scandal, and this is also in the show. There's like a big sex scandal, and this made me to actually read about it. And I think that's the point of the show, right? So be entertaining and be educational. And if it did it to me, I think that it did the job.
Exactly. Yeah, I totally agree.
I loved some of the songs in it. I probably have to wait until probably the song that started working for me was the introduction of Schuyler Sisters. It was just something new. I was like, oh, this is good, actually. So I like that. And I love David Diggs in this. So David Diggs he plays two characters, Lafayette and Thomas Jefferson, and he is incredible. So this is the same actor who later on went to star in Blind Spotting, the movie if I've not recommended it to you, I would recommend it to anyone to watch. He's in the Snowpiercer, the TV series. He's also in Central Park, the new Apple TV animated series as well. So, there's great actors in there. Some songs work perfectly, but I think I just felt overwhelmed with it, or with the time, and with like 46 songs altogether. I was like, whoa, okay, this is a bit too much for me. So I will not be the person who will be rewatching this. I am pretty sure there are people who already watched it like 5 times. We're talking on Monday, and that was released on Friday, so probably every day they watch it once and a half or twice. And I see why. I see the appeal, but I would love to see a movie based on that musical, and I'm pretty sure this is going to happen sooner or later. That there will be like a proper cinematic version of that, and I would just love to see it.
Did you just laughing even thinking about it, did you not enjoy King George?
King George, yeah, that's fine. Okay.
Oh my god, I thought King George was absolutely killer in it. I can't remember the actor's name, but he plays
Jonathan Groff.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and
he's obviously.
I actually know him from Mindhunter, the Netflix series. That was really all that I had ever seen him.
And Mindhunter. But for anyone who's listening, like the kids,
yeah, of course,
he's in Frozen.
Mm-hmm,
You know?
Mm-hmm. I thought he was amazing in this for two reasons. Obviously, he's kind of playing a very sort of temperamental, spoilt King George, who's very unhappy with what's happening in America at the time, and kind of revolting against him. He does an amazing amount of acting with just his eyes alone, I thought, and then he also adds in this additional element of him, which I think has been sort of pulled out and shared around the internet as well, of where he spits as he talks, and he doesn't like wipe his face or anything like that there, so he kind of always ends up with this like really wet chin as well, and it's so disgusting. But so funny at the same time. It puts me in mind of Denethor in Return of the King, when he's if you remember the scene when Merry has to sing to Denethor, the steward of Gondor, and he's eating the cherry tomatoes with the chicken and stuff, and like one of the cherry tomatoes kind of like bursts as he eats it and like dribbles down his chin, and it's so fucking disturbing when you're watching it, but it's so standout. And it kind of reminds me of that when he's spitting as well. It's a sort of like grotesque thing that this person is disgusting, even though they're kind of royalty and that you would expect them to be like proper and have some manners. They're actually sort of like disgusting people. So I thought he, for me, was a bit of a standout. You said the word overwhelming there, and I definitely agree with that. I definitely thought that the fact that this show does not stop for any sort of just simple talking sequences, to allow you to rest for a moment or kind of catch up on the plot, because it's all wrapped, which is such a cool idea and so interesting to cast actors and people of color into what are, like sort of very typically white roles, obviously, because many of them were white people like George Washington and stuff like that, but you never really see them get portrayed by anybody other than just white actors. To cast people of color in those roles was really interesting, and then to wrap out all of the scenes and what was happening and the entire story was so cool and so creative, but also I found it very difficult to keep up with sometimes. You had to really, really listen. As a matter of fact, I had to put subtitles on just to be able to keep up with some of it, because while the visuals I thought, looked great, it's definitely mixed to favor the music. I feel like because they want people sort of singing along at home, and they want it to be loud and energetic to match the scenes, that they mix it so that the vocals sort of fall secondary. And I don't know if that, for me, was a great choice, because it did make it hard to actually understand some of the things that they were saying, because they're saying them so fast, and then that causes you, by the nature of it being wrapped, to miss out on key plot points. It might have been a little easier if you were more familiar with the story of Hamilton already. You would know,
or heard the soundtrack like 20 times.
That's another big part of it. Yeah, if you've already listened to it mixed kind of professionally over and over again, which I know some people had before they seen the stage play, never mind this here. So I think it's great. I don't think I'll go back and watch it anytime soon. If the opportunity comes up to see it live on stage in the future, I will probably go and do it, because I would like to see it performed again. And being in an audience, a live audience, helps in a lot of cases. So I would probably, if the opportunity came up, I would go back and watch it again. But we are not going to rate this on our Letterboxd account for the same reason as you just said, for your own personal one. Not being a movie, I feel like it is exempt from our ratings.
Yeah, Conor, one thing I'm going to add. If I did not have subtitles, I would not watch this at all.
Yeah.
Thank God for subtitles. I think also if I would be watching this without any preparation as a stage, I would probably leave halfway through. I would leave, not because I didn't like it, but because I was so frustrated not getting everything. And I like getting stuff. I like understanding. And it's the barrier of both, very quickly spitting out the words in the language that's not my primary language. But also
That's
sometimes
true,
the
yeah.
sound, sometimes, like like you said, the music is a bit too loud and you might not hear things properly. And people laugh. I had this multiple times. People laugh out loud. And I'm like, what did he just say? Because I did not hear it properly. And I think these people who laughed, they probably heard this already 5 times and they kind of used to it. But overall, I think it's going to be a big hit and for Disney. And people will be, like you said, watch it and rewatch it again and again. I don't blame him. It's fine. It's probably not my cup of tea.
Yeah.
Probably not yours either.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show.
The $10 founding father without a father got a lot farther by working a lot harder, by being a lot smarter, by being a self-starter, to your union and the hope that you provide. May you always be satisfied.
This is Hamilton.
Like I said earlier, I am interested if this is very successful for Disney. Is this something that the other big streaming services will investigate further? Like, will Netflix pay for the production of a live stage show on Broadway or the West End or off Broadway at the Public Theatre or something like that? Will they pay for something like that and let it do a full run as it always would have, but it is also produced in mind with that it's going to go live on Netflix at some point in the future? Because I don't really recall anything like this happening yet in the streaming services, and it worked very well with Netflix with their stand-up comedies. Yeah. Like they now pretty much are keeping the stand-up comedy market afloat at this point, with paying huge amounts of money to stand-up comedians to record a show and then have it go live on Netflix a few months later. So if this is successful, I could see that being an avenue that these streaming services are interested in, because why not? They need to diversify their portfolios of shows that they have available to people as much as possible, and maybe that's a group of people who have yet to really jump into Netflix and streaming services like them, or people who would usually go to like big theater fans. The last few months they've really had no opportunity to see anything at all. So in the future, is there an opportunity for Netflix and stuff to get a new group of sign-ups around the world of people who would have previously been huge theater fans, but whenever they go and see a show, that's kind of it. You could only really go and pay to see it again, and you had no real option to watch it. I don't know if they did DVDs and stuff. I'd imagine they did, but yeah, who the hell buys DVDs?
Yeah. I mean, right now you're probably aware of that the cinemas are actually showing some of the ballet or some of the like national theater plays in the theaters. I think with the musical is a little bit more. As long as the musical is selling tickets, there's no point of like releasing it. But with Hamilton, what this shows us is, there is still an audience of people. Like there's a bunch of people who want to watch it. They will watch it and will still probably go and buy a ticket for the stage show. So this is us talking about Hamilton, which is available right now to stream on Disney Plus. So Conor, are we gonna talk a little bit about Formula One or no?
We'll do it in the post show, which is the part that doesn't get broadcast because we don't want to torture people with having to listen to.
Okay, if anyone wants to talk to me during the Blockbusters show online, like live, please contact me at RD Folta. Don't contact Conor; he doesn't have a clue about good sports. That's it. That's it for today. Thank you for listening. This is the Blockbusters podcast. We are on Twitter at BlockbustersPod. Conor is at Design Conor. And we have Letterboxd profiles. Now we have 3 Letterboxd profiles. I have my own, which is Rado with X. Conor has his CNR BYL, and he doesn't rate any movies there, so don't even check it out. And we have our account. What's the name of our account, Conor?
It is just the Blockbusters.
Just the Blockbusters. Oh, without the just, right?
Without the just, yeah.
The Blockbuster.
It is the Blockbusters, all one word. Letterboxd.com/the Blockbusters.
Our theme music is by Scott Holmes, and you can find more of his work at scottholmesmusic.com, where you can find our podcast and like us and subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, on Overcast, Spotify, Google Podcasts, CastBox, Pocket Casts, probably every podcast app that is out there. Thank you for listening. Give us a rating. Recommend us to your friends, to your enemies. They all deserve a little bit of Rado, a little bit of Conor in their life. Conor, thank you for today. It's been a pleasure as always.
As always. Thank you very much.
Next week, we will recommend you some more great movies, not musicals. Until next time, this is Rado and Conor saying bye.
Goodbye.
And like that, he's gone.
Is it and your dog is barking.
Yeah, can you hear? Good thing it's not. This is the post show. I don't know what she's barking at. So I don't. But
probably at you talking about the game instead of talking about movies.
There must be someone. There must be someone at the door. So there must be, or out on the street or something.